Okay, while we wait, maybe I'll start already. So hi, I'm Andreas. This is Vijay. We're two co-founders of Fileverse. We came here from the two corners of the world to tell you something very specific, and that's that the space is ready for non-financial applications at scale. So I know that everyone is quite hyper-focused, and for good reasons, on financial applications in crypto and Web3, but we want to start communicating the idea and build a narrative that non-financial applications are ready because of the stack that has been built for the past 10 years in our space. So this includes a bunch of important primitives. We'll cover those things. We'll talk a bit about the narrative and what drives our thinking behind that. And then we'll get into the nitty-gritty of the topic and talk about how difficult it is to build peer-to-peer applications at scale, try to explain what are the challenges people will face in doing so, but leave you on a hopeful note that the space is indeed ready for us to go into the type of applications you use every day online. So one of the main points behind the presentation that's going to be up any minute now is that most of the internet traffic today is on social media. If you go on SimilarWeb today, it's a website where you can compare the traffic that goes into different websites. You'll see that it's Facebook, TikTok, YouTube, Google, those types of companies and products that are the main ones that most of the internet traffic is directed towards. And we want to say that if we want the space to grow significantly and reach that holy grail of 1 billion users, the next billion users, we're going to need to be aware of this type of traffic and actually try to build applications that work that way. So I don't see any slides, so maybe we can go with the backup slides that were there originally. I see a change. Okay, so even without the slides, it doesn't matter. I'm going to get into it. Hopefully they're amazing. Okay, maybe like that. Okay, we can't move them, but already the title is there, which is very cool. It helps me at least cover the first point. The first point is that we're building for trustless collaboration. And this is important because it's not just a niche little problem of our space, it's something that can actually set us up for making the web more robust and a better place for us to have everyday online experiences. Okay, so the next slide is just us presenting ourselves. It's quite important to know who is trying to tell you a little story or sell you something, so I want to show that we're not selling something. Vijay and I have been working on a project called Fileverse for 1.5 years now. We've been in the space since 2016. We're Gitcoin grantees. We've been on Gitcoin since Gitcoin round 13. Represent, and we were for 3 rounds consecutively in the top projects behind DeFi Llama. It was quite encouraging because we saw that people were actually, yay, it works. Okay, perfect. Okay, it's a bit of the older slide, but let's go with that. So this is us. We're also Ethereum Foundation grantees. We've been working on smart contract recovery and social recovery for a few months now. Vijay is the co-organizer of SheBuilds.tech. It's the biggest non-male focused Web3 hackathon in India. It's quite an amazing feat, especially if you realize the problem of diversity in our space. I'm completing my PhD in AI and cybersecurity at Oxford. Don't hold it against me. We've been in crypto for a long time, and we like running validators and nodes kind of all over the world. So let's get into it. I think one of the most important things that we're going to do right now in the talk, at least in the beginning, is tell you a bit about the pieces, the breakthroughs or some technologies that we're very hopeful for, and that really allow us to build those technologies that that we call trustless collaboration. For those who were at SafeCon yesterday, you'll see that the talk is quite similar, although we'll go a bit more into the technical architecture towards the end and the challenges you can face in building those types of technologies. So, first thing that I would like to highlight is multisigs. Multisigs, we consider them as one of the most important breakthroughs of our space. It gave us this crazy concept that I'm still trying to communicate to people around me as a super important piece of technology that evolves, makes it possible for internet communities to be much more powerful and have material impact. So instead of just having a subreddit group, a group of friends on the internet, here you have people managing a bank account all together, even if they don't know each other, even if some of them are in India, the others in Nigeria, the others in Lebanon, the others in Tokyo. And this is incredibly powerful. The example of Constitution DAO is a good example. Another thing about multisigs is that it made our space more robust to compromise keys and phishing and all types of problems. Okay. Okay, yeah. Suite of account abstractions that come with Safe as well, and account recovery or smart contract recovery in case you lose your keys. Super important. It fixes a lot of UX problems that were quite detrimental to our space. The next slide is kind of where we're going with this conversation. It's about what if we could use those multisigs for something that was non-financial? What if we could use them for public and private or personal data? So you can think of communities trustlessly co-owning and managing content, files, a brand, an archive, a website, a digital garden. The possibilities are endless. And this is with security, with on-chain management of your data, which means what? Which means data and computational integrity. Now, non-financial applications in crypto, I know it's a blasphemy. People don't really like to talk about it for good reasons. It's difficult. But what are we observing when we take a look at the space? We see that there is a persistent point of centralization, which we don't like, that has remained unaddressed. And that's everyday collaboration and coordination is centralized. What does that mean? It means that our knowledge base, our documentation, our public content, the things that we share with our community and beyond for them to start understanding the space, build on the technologies that we've prepared, the protocols that we prepared, are just one arbitrary decision by one company or an employee going rogue or a bankruptcy or anything like that from actually having a collapse of our common knowledge base and wikis and all that. And this is catastrophic. Here I put two examples. I love both projects deeply. This is the Ethereum Foundation. This is the Gitcoin DAO. They're both using Notion to communicate essential information about their projects and facing the public and the audiences that they're targeting. It's a problem. You can't be dependent on a server in California if you're going to actually hope that your information is going to be available forever and for everyone and anywhere. I'm going to fast forward because we had some slides problem. This is not just a us problem, it's a problem for everyone on the web. Most adults around the world do not trust companies to handle their personal data. Most academics, political dissidents, journalists are constantly locked out from their workspaces, their collaboration spaces, and that's a huge issue. Those are some of my favorite websites, Reddit, Wikipedia, the Internet Archive. They're amazing examples of commons-based peer production, and yet they're all dependent on arbitrary decisions from the organizations that provide the tools that they have. Next slide. I don't know why it's going before I click. The community computers revolution. I'll stop in a bit and give the mic back to Vijay. This is one of my favorite terms. I think it really captures something that maybe blockchains don't, especially in elite little groups or in academia. People don't really like hearing the word blockchain or Gnosis or Ethereum. They get hostile immediately. And so I've been trying to use community computers as an alternative concept. It doesn't come from me, it comes from the Cosmos community, at least the first time I saw it, from Ethan Buchman especially, and he describes it as such. Personal computers unleashed unimaginable levels of sovereignty and interoperability for people, and community computers will do the same for groups. I deeply believe in this, and I think it is a great point. Now, almost done, community computers and the self-sovereignty stack. There's been a culmination of 10 years of blockchain and cryptography research and development, and those elements allow us to actually build what Sandeep yesterday called trustless applications instead of decentralized applications. I quite like the term, so we're going to use it here, and we're going to show you an example of that. The first crucial part of this is crypto wallets. We like to consider those things as a rebirth of public key cryptography. It gives hundreds of millions of people the ability to be aware of their public key and private key. It's very important because it's a type of adoption that PGP never achieved for a bunch of UX problems and more. Smart contracts. Here I really like this quote I saw by Hudson Jameson on Twitter a few days ago. A replacement for intermediaries who would otherwise handle the logic or trust required in a valuable transaction or interaction between two or more entities. You have also content addressing by Arweave or IPFS, quite an important piece of technology as well that comes in this self-sovereignty stack and that merges amazingly well with community computers. What is it? No need to put your trust in where data resides. The trust is in the cryptographic identifiers of the data itself. So I like the point from Jay Graeber from Blue Sky that you're moving away from client-server architectures and you create what she calls user-generated authority. Final three things: multi-sigs and smart accounts, complexity reduction and security increase, L2s and app chain, and social graphs, which give you basically the ability or the right to exit, which is primordial. Final slide, and then we get into the real business. New path for crypto adoption and internet freedom. Again, this is not just a us problem, it's something that will make the internet a better place. At least this is what we want to present today. And I think one way to think about it is as a new crypto on-ramp. What I mean by that is that we have the ability now with that stack that I described to cater for everyday online activities and interactions. Not only 3 Uniswap swaps a week with 2 NFT claims and maybe a Lens post. No, we're talking about I log onto my computer and my workspace, my collaboration, my file storage, everything that I do daily, it can be catered to a crypto stack. So what does that mean? It means that people would not be required to buy tokens or having tokens to interact with our space. This is super important. Why? It's important because we do not force anymore the new entrants into our space to abandon their privacy at the doorsteps of the first centralized exchange KYC process. This is a big problem that we currently all face. I'm a bit ashamed whenever I show to someone new that, hey, yeah, you first need to show your identity, then you need to connect to your bank account, then you need to show where you live, and you need to tell them how many times a day you go to the toilets, and you continue like that. It's a problem. This means that we'll not be locking out 90% of the world because space is either too expensive or requires a KYC process that is not possible for them. It also means that we can build technologies that are GDPR compliant rather than depending on monopolies to consider yes or no if they're going to comply by European Union regulations. And finally, we can build tools that your grandparents can actually use to improve their online experiences and explore the digital world. Quick demo, it probably won't work. It will not work, unfortunately, because of some technical issues. So we'll get into, okay, there are 2 missing slides as well, but Vijay will still manage to actually go through the architecture.
Okay. I think as devs, we all can imagine things when I explain, right? So Andreas perfectly summarized like why we exist as Fileverse team and what we are trying to do, where do we fit into the whole grand scheme of things. I'm going to get into like how we do it, meaning like what is the tech stack and what is it that powers that thing we are talking about. And here in the demo, we were trying to show you how you could use Fileverse Dapp through your Safe account. It could be either using the modules, or it could be either using the Safe apps ecosystem that's there, right? So I'm going to explain the Trustless stack. Bear with me, no slides, so you'll have to work with me, right? So there are 3 components that are there. The first component is the client, meaning the website. Second component that we have is the smart contract. And third component that we have are the nodes, actually. The website is a statically built website, which we pin on RV or IPFS. The smart contract is the smart contract that's hosted on the chain, like it is, for example, a piece of code that's running natively on that. And then third thing we have is the nodes. So what these nodes help us is, like in multiple ways. Some places they help us store things. Some places they help us token gate things. Some places they help us coordinate message passing systems that we have built, right? And all of these nodes are open sourced on our repo. So you can go ahead and run them as well if you want to set up Fileverse from scratch for yourself using these nodes, right? Now, the interesting part about our architecture is not just basically the 3 components. What we use is also something called UCANs. UCANs is User Control Authorization Network. What does that mean? It means these are JWTs that are generated client-side and then used by servers for giving permissions or allowing someone to do something on that particular node, depending on what permission smart contract has granted to that person that is signing the tokens. Okay? And we also have end-to-end encrypted keys that are stored on the client. And then everything happens like without even needing any sort of server interaction with us, meaning our front end talks to the smart contract, and then smart contracts stores things for us. There is the reason why we are different from any other services that you might have used is like 2 parts, right? First is that we are not using servers to coordinate amongst the clients. Today, whenever you're using any app, what you do usually is you talk to a server, and that server allows you to either do something with that thing or not allows you to do something with that thing, right? It can be a website or anything that you're interacting with, Facebook, Instagram, or any of those things. So that is the server-client architecture. But instead of using that, we're going with like client, everyone that is helping us coordinate is a client, actually. And we use servers to facilitate those connections amongst those clients. If you want to get more understanding of it, I can share the slides after the talk. And the reason why this architecture is interesting, there are a few challenges that come with this new architecture that I'm talking about, like client-client architecture instead of using server-client architecture. The 3 things are like difficulty of building the right level, like how do you have the good decentralization with good UX, right? Whenever you are going after decentralization in your stack or onto your website or anything like that, the biggest problem that happens is the speed. You are actually trading speed with decentralization. If you involve more people to come to a consensus, they need more time, right? So that is a big problem that we are trying to solve. The it's a tug of war between like what parts can we decentralize and what parts we can't, right? With respect to the UX into the picture. And the other thing is like how today, whatever collaboration infrastructure that we have, meaning like difficulty in extending the difficulty in extending the peer-to-peer infrastructure. So today, whatever like services, for example, CRDTs and all the servers, real-time collaboration infrastructure that you see is more inclined towards there being a server and all the clients talking to it with respect to the permissions and everything else, right? But in our case, that's not the thing. So we need to work on an RTC infrastructure that can work with the clients instead of just having a server that's coordinating amongst those clients, right? So that's one of the problems that we are trying to solve. All the services that we are using, like those are peer-to-peer services, are end-to-end encrypted, and that's the reason why we can be decentralized, more decentralized than a normal server, right? And yeah, the final thing is that local first is the next iteration of Fileverse, meaning because of our node type architecture or the way that we have implemented these nodes, you can actually run those nodes on your local system and then connect Fileverse's portal with it without needing to interact with any of our services. Even the domain names, you won't be needing them if you are using Fileverse portal in the next iteration. So yeah, in that, the big question is how do you protect privacy and maintain the high availability? Because whenever you are hosting something on the local, like, how do you make sure that that thing is available whenever the person needs? I think that's it. Any further questions that you have, feel free to ping me, and I'll share the slides because they have more details than what I explained. Yes?
Thank you very much. I'll take us together. All right, so we will take questions. If anyone has a question, if you could just signify by raising your hands, and the microphone will come to you. Yes, the gentleman in front. OK.
I can come closer and listen.
No, sorry, just 1 second. There's a question at the back.
Oh. Can you integrate Fileverse to a Dapp and have some kind of private collaboration workspace that you can share with other people?
Yes. So the way that we are doing, like the way that we have integrated Fileverse to the safe apps is by using I think iframe type architecture. We have just created it as a safe app. Same thing can be done, and you can integrate the entire like website into your Dapp if you want. And that would work out of the box if you follow the protocol of, for example, giving it write access related to the wallets, giving it all the permissions related to the signatures and things like that. So yes, you can.
Yeah.
OK. The gentleman in front.
Thank you. Kudos on the Gitcoin grants. I've been seeing you up in the charts. Basically, do you have any plans to treat self-sovereignty of the data? And if so, would you plan also to bring some computation, some access control, some monetization, and so on? And also, IPFS is pretty well-known standard for content storage. Do you see that being useful for you, or do you plan to integrate, or you think that this trustless collaboration system does not necessarily require this standard?
Yeah, great questions, great bunch of questions. So yes, there is already IPFS for content addressing and storage on Fileverse, but we like to give our users the option to do it locally, do it with Arweave, not even go through Fileverse if they want to pin their files. Basically, there is a default option not to overwhelm basic users, but for those who really care about their privacy or not being reliant on any intermediary, you can do that yourself. Computation, great question. It's something that is going to come. It's something where the space is not necessarily very mature yet, but there are some very interesting projects that are working on this issue. We're trying to help them out as well so that it can fit our specific use case. Computation, you said, IPFS, what else?
I mean, the access control self-sovereignty over the data.
Yeah. For access control, right now we're basing most of our architecture around the smart contract. It helps us do the access control and ensuring that this process does not break any cryptographic assumptions in the interactions between people. We use something that we call authority delegation. So we're using something from the, I think it's the efficient team, which is called the UCANs, which is user control authorization networks. And it's an amazing piece of technology. It allows us to, without breaking end-to-end encryption, give temporary or permanent access from someone to someone else without necessarily sharing private keys. So this is very cool, and you have a whole new world of peer-to-peer interactions that opens up to you when you start using those things.
Thank you.
Thanks.
All right. In the absence of any further many more questions, please let's put our hands together for Vijay and Andreas. Thank you very much.